I'm Beck and welcome to my spoiler-free review of the Frugal VIDS Handbook to Surviving Medieval England, where I'm going to tell you whether I think reading this book is worth it or not, but in spoiler-free terms. Firstly though, I'm going to put this on my shelf because I listened to the audiobook, I didn't open the plastic, and it's very shiny, so I might just pop a picture in of the book cover instead for this review. This book follows John West. He wakes up in medieval England, he has zero recollection of who he is, why he's there. His guidebook that was supposed to help him along and obviously give him clues as to what he's doing exploded upon impact to this new place, and so he has absolutely no frame of reference for who he is and what his purpose is. He also realizes through the last few cryptic pages that are left over from the explosion that people from his own dimension are chasing him, and he has to make allies of the locals in order to survive. In all honesty, I pre-ordered this book when it was still Brandon Sanderson's Kickstarter, and it had no title, no synopsis, no book cover whatsoever. I was completely and utterly blind going into this, and so I think if I'd known that it had the amnesia trope with John West as the protagonist, plus it was almost a parody of the urban fantasy magical detective subgenre of fantasy in general, I don't think I would have gone for it because I'm very picky as it is with the detective and magical subgenre. But again, with the amnesia trope, it's one of my least favourite tropes whatsoever. It feels like John West had these flashes of insight only when the plot called for it, and to me that feels a little bit lazy and like it needs to only be there to facilitate the plot. I don't think it really would have mattered if John West knew more about his past when he went into this world, because he was set up with nothing in this world anyway, so he was really starting from zero regardless of whether he had his memory or not. So that held me back, I think, from connecting to him as a character because I didn't have any stakes and I didn't know about him enough to care about him. Additionally, I don't think Sanderson's comedy-centric stories are for me because the way that John West was written, it felt like it was almost trying too hard, and there was a star ratings joke that John West carried through the whole book, and it was funny the first couple of times, but after 4 or 5 times in the first chapter or two, I was already over it. So by rehashing that joke all the time, and by him being very fleeting and the plot being very quick, I didn't care enough to connect to him, unfortunately. What I did like in here is something that I see a lot in fantasy books in general, and that is the unwilling partnership. So John West runs across these locals. Obviously, he is trying to survive in this new place, this new dimension, and he falls in with them as almost like a unwilling partnership / found family dynamic, where he builds up a rapport with them and they end up going on this hero's quest to save somebody that is important to the group. So in that hero's quest, it gave you an insight into John West and how he's trying to understand and better his own cowardly identity, which is a story arc that I appreciated, but it was more peripheral rather than garnering any deep emotional attachment. Sometimes I was surprised that the book became almost like a parody because it seemed aware that it was using these cookie cutter tropes, but in a very slapdash way. But then in other times it really just fell into them and it didn't surprise me whatsoever. And when it comes to Sanderson, he's been around a while. He's written a lot of stuff and I love Mistborn and Stormlight by him, and those are incredibly epic, but they're more serious toned, whereas this one was very comedy centric and a lot of the humour felt forced to me, so it didn't hit the right story beats for me. It wasn't balanced in my opinion. Like I said, I usually prefer Sanderson's non-comedy centric works in Mistborn and Stormlight, and usually Sanderson sets up a series of arcs for each character and a series of tropes, and he takes you to the edge of all of these things to the point where you can see where it's going, and then after that major thing has happened, he pivots in a new direction that is completely unwarranted and completely unpredictable, and that's what makes his books great. When he delivers that twist with its ultimate surprise, sometimes there's more than one twist too, that's what I'm looking for when I pick up a Sanderson book. Usually people call that the Sanderlanche. It's like a plot twist that keeps on going. It builds up the pace and the trajectory and it makes you grip the edge of your seat because it's so compelling. This book lacked all of that depth for me, and it just felt alarmingly flat in comparison when I know what Sanderson's chops are. I was like, this is majorly disappointing. Usually if the plot isn't holding things up for me, I turned to the characters to kind of pull me through, but the characters couldn't even hold up this narrative for me because I didn't care about them emotionally. One of the good things that I found in this book was the pace, but that also kind of was a bad thing too. It worked against the book. I found that I could finish it quite quickly because it was constantly moving. So from that perspective, it was always introducing something new, always moving the characters along. It wasn't stagnating, but at the same time, it was moving at such a rapid pace that I didn't feel like I was settled at all, and I didn't feel like I could sink into the characters' identities and intents and purposes. It all felt like it was skimming off the top, and for that reason, the pace worked against it. So overall, I'm really sad to say that I gave this a 2 stars out of 5. Usually I'd give Sanderson a 4 or 5 stars for the ones that I really love, but this just really undershot the mark for me. If I wanted an urban fantasy detective story with pithy one-liners and magical plot twists and characters that I can get invested in, I would just go to Dresden Files and read that again, because all of the side characters in that story have their own incredible arcs. I would read any spin-off possible from that series from any character. All of them feel so well-rounded to me, and it was just completely the antithesis to what Frugal Wizard was. Everything in Frugal Wizard just fell flat. So in all honesty, can I say that reading Frugal Wizard is worth it? I would tell you, no, it's not. I did enjoy Tress of the Emerald Sea, and I have a separate review for that one. I didn't love it to the upper echelons of like Mistborn and Stormlight, like I've said, but I still very much enjoyed it compared to where Frugal Wizard is sitting. Sanderson's Kickstarters are proving to be a little bit disappointing compared to his overall epic books, and I understand that they're written more quickly and they're more of a fun project for him, so they're not supposed to be as in-depth as Mistborn or Stormlight, but still, I want something with a little bit more substance, and so I feel overwhelmingly disappointed by Frugal Wizard in particular. Will I continue his Kickstarters? I've pre-ordered all of them, so I may as well, right? But I really have underwhelming expectations after finishing Frugal Wizard. If you are still happening to be here and watching this video, thank you for sticking around. Let me know what your rating for Frugal Wizard is, if you have read it or not, and I'll chat to you down below in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you so much again for watching. Bye.